It's time for the SP and Bushy Show. Here's your hosts, SP and Bushy.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the SP and Bushy Show. Two lifelong friends who finally got together and put together a podcast. I'm SP. Bushy, how you feeling?
I'm doing pretty good, buddy. It's a very, very interesting time. The football is starting to come to an end, but we're going to get basketball soon, and then maybe hockey at the start of the new year. Very excited, and yeah, we're hitting the holiday season, so trying to be as joyous as possible, especially for this year.
Absolutely. Trying to be as joyous as possible, but there was so little joy brought to us from the NFL this week. We'll start with the Thanksgiving games. You had some comments you said on those. So.
Oh, they were awful. If people follow us on Twitter, they saw, with my dad and then my Uncle Ed's reaction. And I turned Uncle Ed in kind of a Twitter star for a few minutes, with that Kane Brown performance. That was probably the most interesting, thing of that Thanksgiving game as well. The Houston-Detroit game really was and then the Cowboys Washington game was very, very – it was okay. It was an interesting game until the fourth quarter, and that's when the Washington football team decided to put down and say, you guys are – to the Cowboys, you're a bad team. We're going to take over.
Yeah, for me, the Kane Brown performance, and I'm going to say this as a huge rock and roll fan, the Kane Brown performance was sadly the highlight of the two games just because it ended in 10 minutes as opposed to the football games, which drug on for 3 hours of miserableness for miserable football.
Absolutely, and we were supposed to get a primetime game, but that's obviously been pushed now for another 6 days. So hopefully the game will be played tomorrow, and we can put this week behind us and call it the end of the week.
Yeah, it's certainly controversial. I don't get why they keep moving this game, and now it's going to be played during the day tomorrow at a time when no one's going to see it, basically. Yet they forced the Denver Broncos to play this game. And I think I would be equally upset by this decision, even if it wasn't my team that kind of hosed over in this. The Broncos get the middle finger from the league, having to play with a quarterback who hasn't even had a chance to practice. You can't tell me player safety is important and then give this guy no snaps in practice and then magically expect him to go out there and play quarterback against a very good defense. How is he supposed to stay safe? Honestly, it's an insult to the Broncos and to the Steelers that they keep moving this game back because the Ravens keep testing positive. Honestly, they should have just run out whoever was healthy out there, let them get killed by the Steelers. And honestly, like I said, it's really upsetting me the NFL keeps doing this. It's kind of like wrestling. You can tell who they're favoring, who they're trying to get in the postseason, who they want to be these key matchups. And it's felt that way for years, and it's really starting to upset me as a fan.
Exactly, and they try to promote parity as well. It's like we want a competitive environment as well. We want to show that these teams can keep and want to be competitive. But you show it now, like really they're a bunch of hypocrites when they showed that Denver Saints game. It was other than probably the first couple of drives to see the unique Denver offense, it really was an unwatchable game. It really was. It was so unwatchable. One of the worst games I have ever seen. And then trust me, I have seen a ton of bad games in my time. And that was definitely one of the worst games I've ever seen in my life.
It felt like watching a high school game, and I believe I tweeted this out, but it felt like watching a high school game. Neither quarterback could pass the ball. It felt like, honestly, watching a high school game or even a JV high school game. The Broncos offense was something out of a straight JV high school game. It was an insult to watch. It was a middle finger to the fans. Like, how can you tell me as a Broncos fan that the league has my best interest at heart when they're forcing our players to rush out there in a situation they're not prepared for with 3 quarterbacks who haven't ever tested positive for the virus, but let's keep extending it for the Ravens. And you can't tell me the Ravens are doing everything by the book if their whole team is basically testing positive for COVID. It's ridiculous. Like I said, they should have let the Ravens take their medicine Thursday night at a time when we all would have watched the game as opposed to tomorrow afternoon. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm not going to watch that game. I'm not going to watch it because now as a Broncos fan, I feel like the NFL doesn't care about me at all. So why am I going to care about giving them the ad revenue or giving them the ratings of this game tomorrow? I'm going to watch Seinfeld reruns on Hulu before I watch that. It's a joke. NFL is like a joke anyway. And you could tell, honestly, even in the Chiefs-Buccaneers game, that they're doing everything they can to help Brady make that game competitive and make it more watchable. It happened late in that game. The Chiefs are getting ready to go in for either a go-ahead touchdown or a field goal that would make it, at that point, a 3-possession game, or actually a much wider lead, almost a 20 to 24-point lead. And they hammer the Chiefs after JPP gets a 15-yard penalty. They hammer the Chiefs with 3 consecutive holding penalties on 3 straight plays just to make sure that they get driven out of field goal range. And then miraculously, Brady drives it back and makes it a competitive game again, with the following drive getting 2 roughing the passer penalties. It was 60 yards of penalties on 2 drives. And, I mean, even if you say that they were both warranted, the roughing the passer penalties, it was garbage to watch. You could tell the league, like it has been for 20 years, is rigging this thing for Brady.
Yeah, and again, to add insult to injury as well, with all 3 quarterbacks testing negative as well, I feel like that's an insult to injury to the Broncos. The fact that they couldn't move these games to maybe either Monday or maybe even Tuesday to see if they have negative tests as well. If they had a positive, then we could kind of understand, like, oh, okay, NFL did the right decision. But the fact that the test came back negative really is just an insult to injury to the fact that they really should have just moved the game. And really, that was the popular opinion. They should have moved the game. It was ridiculous for the NFL to see what they did as well. And I agree with that with Brady, but the Chiefs are really a semi-dirty team. If you really, really kind of watch them, they do hold a lot as well to try to protect Mahomes as well. Again, it's just like an O-line secret that I kind of see as well. It's just crazy that they really called it on just a very opportune time as well. But yeah, just all in all, it was just a bad week for the NFL, just a really, really bad week. And after a good week that they had last week, it was a bad week for the NFL.
It was a huge black eye for them. And honestly, I would have been fine if they'd have even suspended all 3 Broncos quarterbacks. You suspend Bortles, you suspend Locke, you suspend Brett Rippon, and you still make Kendall Hinton the starter. But at least let Kendall Hinton get 2 practices in to see this offense and at least try to build some sort of offense around him. He found out with like 15 hours before the game that he had to play quarterback. How is he supposed to have any sort of offensive flow out there? I mean, they didn't do a great job offensive coordinating for him anyway. But to say that he should have, like give him, even if you suspend all 3 quarterbacks, postpone the game, let him get his feet under him so that he could at least try to make it a competitive game, try to compete in some way. Like, he was just ran out there, ran through the gallows. And the fact that he didn't get seriously injured out there really is an amazing thing to me, because they didn't care about his safety. He would have gotten smoked out there. The Saints have Cam Jordan. They have Davis. They have all these guys that are really big threats to a seasoned quarterback who's been practicing all season long. And you expect them to really take it easy on this guy who just got called up from the practice squad as a wide receiver. Once again, it was a huge middle finger for the league and a huge black eye for the league that pretends to care about public safety or player safety, and it pretends to care about every team equally, when obviously they don't. They postponed the Broncos game against the Patriots so the Patriots could get their 2 best players back. Yet, nevertheless, the one time the Broncos need a little bit of a break, middle finger once again.
Yeah, and it goes to maybe the ownership situation with that. I guess coincidentally or non-coincidentally, it shows that they announced yesterday that they finally set a trial date for the Bolin ownership group as well. So I don't know if that happened to be coincidental or not. we probably won't know, but it really is, yeah, it goes to show that really a black eye, and really the NFL really doesn't care about the Denver Broncos, which is really kind of odd because they were probably one of the marquee franchises that really the NFL liked and all that. And now it's become, I guess we're just, secondhand people
It's
or
ridiculous.
lower class citizens.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. And I'm gonna go on another rant. And this is all another thing that bugged me this week was Vic Fangio throwing all three quarterbacks under the bus this week. And yeah, they all screwed up. But at the same time, you're the head coach. You sent the message in week 1 that you got fined for, that you didn't care about wearing the mask. So why are you going to be shocked when your players are getting together without masks on? Honestly, Vic Fangio does not seem like a leader to me. He has no idea how to manage the game. He's a clown. He needs to be fired too for not standing up to his players, and saying, you know what, this is the organization's fault. Joe Ellis did that same thing today, even though he has no real interaction with the players. So why on earth did Vic Fangio not say, you know what, this is my fault. I kind of set the tone for this as the head coach. I need to be more involved. I need to be the one making sure that they're following the rules, as opposed to this completely deferring responsibility. He's a clown too.
Right. And it goes as well. And it goes, keeps rolling the ball as well, with Vic getting the fine in the weeks 1 and 2. And then we've had circumstances too where people have tested positive within the Broncos organization as well, which Joe Ellis and John Elway tested positive for COVID as well. And then having Shelby Harris, who has not come back yet from COVID, and it's been at least 5-6 weeks now with him. And it's just been, they've had examples about that. And I guess you got to kind of get mad at the quarterbacks a little bit for not wearing masks as well, because they've had examples of COVID positives and all that. It's not like this is out of the blue or something like that. We've had instances where people have tested positive within the Broncos organization.
Yeah, but again, they never moved any Broncos games in favor of, okay, maybe they get Shelby Harris back, or maybe they get their offensive line coach back. No, there was never a move of a game for the Broncos all season long. But let's move the Ravens-Steelers game 5 times just to benefit the Ravens. The Steelers don't have any positive tests. Why can't the Steelers go out there and kill the Ravens 75-0 or 31-3 or whatever the heck it ends up being? Why is this so important for Baltimore to get every little advantage, but not the Denver Broncos? I want answers. I'm upset.
Right. Well, it's funny too. The two options were you either play the game without a quarterback or you forfeit. Those were the two options.
Right.
There really wasn't a third option.
Right. Or since this season is built on special circumstances, let them pull that offensive coach in that they were talking about, the former UCF quarterback. Let them put him in. Let them at least choose who that backup could be, that emergency backup. Because trust me, I've seen it with minor league hockey. How many times have you seen it where like an emergency goaltender is some guy who drives a Zamboni or the bus driver or somebody like that? I've seen it all the time in the minor league hockey world, or a trainer. Like, at least let the Broncos decide who, even if it's a coach, even if it's John Elway running down from the GM suite to come down and play quarterback for one game, let it happen. This is a season that's needed to be based on special circumstances. Let the special circumstances apply to all 32 teams equally.
You're right. They really should have implemented that goalie backup plan in case if something did happen. Maybe have somebody who can come in and suit up and play quarterback for a little bit. I agree with you. It should be special circumstances. It's just odd. It's odd. Just like the punishments that have taken with this. The Raiders have gotten fined in a pick and really nothing has happened. They didn't pull anybody out because they weren't wearing masks. Same goes for the Titans. They had an outbreak as well. And it's just really odd of the punishment that the Broncos got compared to other teams.
It really is. And like I said, okay, then why are the Broncos the one that were made examples of instead of making an example out of the Titans and the Patriots, who are kind of the first two that really have big COVID outbreaks? Then make examples out of those two teams early on. Or, yeah, like I said, just make example, if you're going to make an example, you should have made it an example 1 to 2 months ago. Don't make an example in mid-November on a team that was 4-7 in the first place, or 4-6 in the first place. And for some reason, okay, we'll let this team play or they forfeit, but the Ravens will postpone for a month or however long it takes. And that brings me to one of my memes of the week, and that is the one that I saw where it's like the Ravens-Steelers game has now been postponed till 2032, and it shows like Big Ben with a big gray beard and Lamar starting to age a little bit too. And like I said, that one's one of my memes of the week. Another one was like that one that you always see with the guy and the girl, and the guy's looking at the passing girl, and his girlfriend gets upset, and that girlfriend that got upset with the Broncos. The NFL's the guy, and the Ravens are the girl that's walking by. That one was a funny one to me too.
I'm really kind of curious if the Broncos were kind of in a playoff position, or if they were maybe 6-5 or 7-4, fighting for a playoff spot. I really am kind of curious what would happen. Would they maybe have pushed the game back or something like that? Or is it just one of these circumstances that they try to make an example of?
Or is it because the Broncos have Drew Lock at quarterback, and if this would have happened 5 years ago when Peyton Manning was a quarterback, if the league would have done everything they could to get Peyton Manning out there because they knew that he was a big draw?
Oh, they would have done everything. We probably would have played on Easter if that would have happened. Probably would have played a game on Easter or something like that.
Oh, yeah, they'd have made exceptions. That game would have been the St. Patrick's Day Massacre or something.
Exactly. It's just odd with the punishment. I'm not going to lie. And really, they should have maybe have pulled the players maybe on like Thursday or Friday when the Driscoll announcement did come in. It really was just odd because it was just on like a Saturday at 4 p.m. that they announced that all the Broncos had no quarterbacks. So
Right.
That was just a very, very odd thing to happen.
And I got to shout out Rich Eisen as an NFL Network host, because on Sunday he symbolized it beautifully when he said that it's basically like putting Kendall Hinton in there was like those old Holiday Inn Express commercials where they put in the guy and it's like, have you ever played quarterback before? And he's like, no, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Those good commercials. Oh, I missed them.
And it's true, actually. I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express one time, and I won 2 poker tournaments in Vegas and was rolling that week. So if anything, maybe it does help. But at the end of the day, it was just BS what the league did there. And the league, because of it, really, I don't remember a single good game that I watched this weekend from the NFL. I mean, maybe Vikings-Panthers.
That was about it. Yeah, like Vikings Panthers. I'm really trying to think as well. Yeah, because Titans Colts was a blowout. Really KC Tampa Bay, even though the score looked close, that was kind of a blowout.
Yeah, it was a blowout until they gave Kansas City 60 yards worth of penalties. And I know what you said earlier about Kansas City trying to sneak in those holds. Don't tell me that the Buccaneers aren't doing the same thing, because Aaron Donald even complained about it last week that he was getting held a lot in that game against the Rams. And then they also had the fumble that was forced by Morgan Fox where they ruled that Brady was miraculously down or whatever before that actually had happened.
It's not holding unless you get caught. Come on, that's always the lineman's secret. It's not holding until you get caught.
It's not holding if you're blocking for Tom Brady. Let's be honest. That's what it really is. It's not holding if you're blocking for Tom Brady. It's not holding if you're blocking for the New England Patriots. And it's the same BS story that we've been dealing with for 20 years where the league has been rigging it for them. And honestly, we've seen it time and time again. The Chiefs should have been in the Super Bowl each of the last 2 years. And instead, the Chiefs were kind of hosed out of it 2 years ago when the Patriots got basically awarded that AFC Championship game against them because of penalties, because of a phantom offsides call, a phantom roughing the passer call. I mean, honestly, like I said, the league has felt rigged. It's felt like watching wrestling, but like a wrestling where like the heel is in the midst of a 20-year reign.
Yeah, I'm looking over the schedule right now. Really, Vikings Panthers was probably the most exciting game. Like Browns Jaguars, again, it was kind of like with Tampa Bay, Kansas City. They came back. Like Cardinals Patriots, I guess, was okay. Giants Bengals was, even though the score was close, that was a mess as well. I guess maybe like 49ers Rams. That was probably the most probably complete game of the weekend as well. But again, it was marred by the Saints Broncos game and the Tampa Bay KC game. So that was really kind of like the under the radar game. But really, I think 49ers Rams were maybe the best of the game. And I was watching Red Zone and they hardly showed that game at all. It was really crazy to think about it.
Yeah, I watched all of that Broncos nightmare, which thankfully ended in just 2.5 merciful hours. But nevertheless, I watched the morning games on Red Zone, and I thought it was really good. That Vikings-Panthers game, you have like a crazy start to the second half with the 2 consecutive fumbles on back-to-back plays for the Vikings that were both returned for a touchdown by the same Panthers player. So that was a crazy start to the half. You got a little bit of everything, and then you got the late comeback there by the Vikings after a big stand defensively. So that one was my game of the week. Nevertheless, like I said, huge black eye for the NFL this week. I mean, obviously we're already kind of committed to red zone for the rest of the year, but I mean, with the way the league just kind of gave the Broncos the middle finger, I don't know if we're going to do red zone next year. I don't know if we're going to do much more to give the NFL more dollars.
Well, I'll keep watching Red Zone. I like NFL. I like the football. I'm one of these people. I know it is a middle finger to the Broncos as well, but we'll see. Hopefully the NFL will maybe give us a gift somewhere down the road. I feel like karmically that could be the thing. I actually got a really interesting conspiracy theory. I think what I personally think is the NFL is still trying to right the wrong of a couple of years ago during the Saints-Rams game, during the non-PI in the NFC Championship. And I feel like the NFL is trying to give the Saints as much as they can as well. So I think they're going to try to help with them as much as possible to try to right the wrong that happened a couple of years ago.
If they were going to do that, they could have done that last year in the playoffs and helped the Saints get to the Super Bowl. The Saints could have gotten to that Super Bowl a year ago, and it would have been better. And that's, I mean, I think, like I said, I'd be all for the Saints going to the Super Bowl. I'm rooting for them to go to the Super Bowl, but they did not need extra help. They would have won that game if Drew Lock was the quarterback. Either way, they would have won that game.
I think it would have been a lot closer. I give credit to the defense. The defense actually played really well for most of that game, and they really stood tall and tried to keep the Broncos into the game. But it was really the Broncos offense couldn't do anything. It really playing with basically 2 hands behind their back, not 1 arm behind their back, but basically with 2 arms behind their back as well. And they really see. That's why I think the game would have been probably a little bit closer if maybe they had a quarterback and maybe had an offense. Probably would have been maybe a 24-17 game rather than a 31-3 game that we had.
Yeah, it would have been a lot more exciting for people to watch. I mean, because basically after the first quarter, you knew what this game was going to be. Once again, you had 56 yards of passing combined by both teams in the first half. Like I said, it was like watching a high school game. It was laughable.
Right. Going on for me, really the team that I was most disappointed with this week was actually the Raiders. They looked strong against the Broncos with an actual quarterback. They looked strong in defeat against the Chiefs, and then they go to Atlanta playing against really a mediocre Falcons team and really get walloped. I mean, they got the butt kicked out of them. And they looked miserable. They just looked like they didn't want to play, and they got hit in the mouth and didn't recover at all.
No, they didn't. And I mean, it was shocking because, I mean, like you said, this is a team that has been really good over the last month. They hung in there with the Chiefs. They beat the Chiefs once, but then all of a sudden they come out and they lay an egg against the Falcons, a team that has been struggling all season. And I mean, it goes to show you maybe the Falcons are a little bit better than what we thought they were. But at the same time, that was just laughable how badly they got beat in that game.
No, I think the Falcons are very a mediocre team. It's probably just 8-8 at best. But yeah, it just looks like the Raiders. They were like a playoff team, and they looked prime. And they probably would have been a lot of people's sleeper pick of like, who do you think is probably going to make a run or maybe make an upset? People would have picked the Raiders. But after this week, people would have been kind of in doubt, and they go, oh, like maybe not the Raiders anymore.
No, certainly not. And another team, the team that that was the biggest disappointment to me was the Indianapolis Colts. They got absolutely stomped as well. And it was a team that they had beaten 2 weeks or 3 weeks earlier. So nothing that the Titans did should have shocked them that badly for them to get beat and get 35 hung on them in the first half.
Yeah, it was disappointing by the Colts. I know they had some players out due to COVID, but really the breaks didn't go their way compared to what happened 2 weeks ago, because that's really what happened 2 weeks ago. It really was a back and forth game Thursday night, but the Colts or the Titans special teams really messed with them and really kind of flummoxed them, really with the bad punt and then like a bad snap with the punter and then a missed field goal to try to stem the bleeding a little bit. But the Titans looked very determined. They were like, there's no way we're going to take this to the special teams. And they did. They showed, they were like, hey, we are a very good team and we're going to dominate.
And that honestly, for me in that game, Derrick Henry kind of solidified himself right now as my MVP so far this season in the NFL. He is an absolute beast. He's a monster. He is a guy, especially, at least the MVP of the AFC, because he just steamrolls everybody. He is such a force, and he's so tough to get on the ground that he really is honestly a force, a guy who, in my opinion, is the most valuable player, because I don't think that Titans team is anywhere near as competitive without him.
I agree with you. If we're doing the term most valuable player as well, I don't think Tannehill would be the quarterback that he is without Derrick Henry. If it's just, Joe Schmo back there, I think Tannehill would just be like a mediocre quarterback. But since he has like Derrick Henry, and now we're hitting in December now, which is really Derrick Henry time the past few years, we'll see if the Titans can maybe make another run to the AFC Championship like they did last year.
Honestly, and right now my number two person in the MVP race has got to be Big Ben, because obviously we saw that the Steelers were terrible without him last year. Or they weren't terrible, but they definitely weren't the top seed in the AFC without him. They didn't make the playoffs last year without him. But they obviously, with him, are really a very good team.
If he has a very good game on tomorrow, if the game does happen, we will see maybe that shift, because it's been all Mahomes this week so far. But yeah, if Big Ben maybe has a good week and probably throws for maybe 4 or 5 touchdowns, then people may start going towards Big Ben.
Again, I think it's Henry, Big Ben, and then Mahomes would be 3 for me. And I take nothing away from Mahomes. Mahomes, to me, may be the best player in football right now, but I don't know that he's the most valuable, just because that offense is so stacked, because you got Kelsey, you got Tyreek Hill, you got a lot of weapons up and down that lineup offensively that really do make that team great.
Right, and that offense really has been humming for 5 years now with Hill and Kelsey and all the receivers that they had. It's just Patrick Mahomes has maybe enhanced it a little more than with Alex Smith as quarterback.
Yeah, and I take nothing away from Mahomes. He is the most composed quarterback I think I've ever seen back there. He is very, very good. And I'm not taking it away from him. He is definitely one of the best players in the league. I just don't know if this season, if he's the MVP, just because of how that offense is built with so many weapons around him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting maybe for the next few years once the Mahomes contract really starts kicking in and they lose a couple of players here or there. We'll see if Mahomes is really that valuable as a quarterback.
I agree. I think it's a very interesting MVP race so far, though.
Yeah, it's been nice. I would like to see maybe a running back get it, kind of a nice little like old school way, because really the running back was a very important position back in the day, and Derrick Henry is really carrying that torch right now. Was probably the best running back of maybe this generation right now. So we'll see. I'm kind of curious, but who knows? People do value the quarterback a little more, and we do see that quarterback is a very valuable position, as we saw with the Broncos and Saints game.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when you have a guy who's practiced quarterback versus a guy who's never practiced quarterback and was on the practice squad and in sales 2 months before. this game happened. I mean, even if, like I said, even if you suspend all 3 Broncos quarterbacks, I still think you should have at least let him get 1 practice with as bad as they were hosing the Broncos.
Exactly. Yeah. Just give me 1 practice. Just 1 practice.
1 practice. 2 practice.
Or maybe delay the games to see if they test negative. If they test negative.
Right.
I just saw they just announced that they took all the 3 quarterbacks that got suspended for the game. They took them off the COVID list or the COVID reserve list. It's crazy.
If it had been played tonight, that the Broncos would have been able to at least play a quarterback.
They would have had a quarterback if the game played today. Yeah, it's crazy.
You and I took as many practice reps as Kendall Hinton did last week at quarterback.
That's right. We're not even getting paid to doing this, too.
Yeah. We're not even getting paid to do this.
Yet.
All right. Do you have any more thoughts on the NFL, or are we moving on to college?
Yeah, PU week after a glorious week the week before, just a PU week and just a bad week in the NFL.
And sadly, it's not over because they still haven't let the Ravens get their medicine yet.
Exactly. We still haven't finished this week yet.
Yeah. It's like Groundhog's Day. It's like the week that'll never end.
Please let it mercifully end. Oh, but I do want to give one thing as well, since this game is actually a lead into the, I believe, the Macy's Christmas tree lighting at Rockefeller Center. So really, I tweeted this out yesterday that there's only one person who can challenge the NFL and win, and that man is Santa Claus. Seriously, Santa trumps the NFL any day of the week.
He certainly does, and the NFL is okay with it because he's got to deliver all those brand new Tampa Bay Buccaneer Tom Brady jerseys. All those bandwagoners that were on the New England train for so long.
Actually, I just ordered my Kendall Hinton jersey right now. Yeah. So I'm waiting for Santa to bring that.
Nice. That's hilarious. All right. So we'll switch gears now. College football. I mean, obviously, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty in terms of the season, and yet another Ohio State game canceled. I got to ask you, Bushy, if the Buckeyes don't play much more, are they that team in the playoffs or not?
This is going to be an interesting factor when it comes to the playoff committee. If one of these next 2 games, I think, get canceled for Ohio State and they're not eligible for the Big Ten championship game, will the committee let that slide and say, oh, it's just one of these years with COVID, and still kind of put them in as well? It's going to be interesting to see how the committee takes this COVID situation.
I mean, especially since it was, I believe, Ohio State that did test positive. I mean, again, I don't know how much a big win over Illinois would have helped them, but I think that if they'd have played that Maryland team, that it would have been at least a little bit more impressive. And that game got canceled too. Like we said last week, their schedule's already pretty soft. Aside from Indiana, like there's no one that's really that impressive on it. So, I mean, you look at like the resume against Cincinnati, and it'd be tough for me to exclude Cincinnati tough for me to exclude Cincinnati and put Ohio State in if I'm a committee member, just because I feel like Cincinnati's body of work is so much more impressive, and it's more sustained over a 12-game season as opposed to like a 5-game season.
Right, and we'll see. I'm really kind of curious how this committee does as well, and it's just a really terrible situation. And and it's the fault of Ohio State. I think maybe that may punish them a little bit because it is the fault of Ohio State. If it was maybe the other team, maybe they give them a little bit of the doubt. But yeah, really, if I were Michigan actually, and trying to find a way to screw Ohio State from the Big Ten championship, would you maybe like fake a COVID thing or be like, I'm sick, like, oh, I'm not feeling well.
You don't have to fake it. It's hard. It's easy enough to go get it out there. Just have some of your players go get it, and that game gets canceled. Bam.
Yeah. Hey, backup lineman, go to this party. Yeah. What is it? 50 people? Yeah. Go to this fraternity party.
I think you throw a 100,000 people party in the big house and just let everyone come, baby.
Yeah, just gotta screw with them. It is interesting. Also, it could be a thing too. Ohio State just doesn't want to play on the road. Really, all their games have been at home so far, and they just don't want to play at home, or they just want to play at the good old, horseshoe and all that.
I haven't thought about
Go
that.
out to go play an away game.
I agree. I think that's a good point too. That's another good conspiracy theory. That being said, I look at the Michigan situation, and it's like they might as well go get COVID and get that game canceled because it's not going to change Harbaugh's fate. We both know what's coming for him at the end of the year.
Yeah, he's going to get fired and probably looking for a new job. And we may probably see him in the Pac-12s sometime soon.
He probably will be. I mean, who are your four right now?
My four right now would be Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson. Those two teams are just really good. And my fourth one would probably be, I guess, maybe the Florida, and then like Cincinnati really, and then Cincinnati really on that fifth slot right now.
See, I have it Notre Dame, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, and then Cincinnati. I have Cincinnati in there.
Yeah, I have Cincinnati as fifth. They've really been one of the more impressive teams this year. I think it's just because I've been watching a lot of them, because really there hasn't been a lot of college football games from September to October, but we'll see now.
Another thing I got to talk to you about, Bushy, another exciting Texas game.
I know we just keep talking about Texas, and there's actually rumors now. I read a report that Nick Saban's wife is looking at real estate in Austin, so let's keep the rumor mill going. Maybe or not Nick Saban, Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer's wife is looking at real estate in Austin, so keep the rumor mill going. Give me Urban Meyer in Austin.
Urban Meyer in Austin, I'm all for it. I mean, this, like I said, they've just been the team that's been exciting to watch. It's been must-see TV from them, and it's great to see a Texas game, win or lose. They've made it exciting every time now.
They have made it exciting. And I got to give props to Iowa State keeping their Big 12 championship hopes alive. With that win, they looked really well. And it's just an interesting that we seem to be talking about Texas every week. And just even on Friday, I was like, oh, another Texas game. And then it goes down to the wire again.
Hey, man, it's fun to watch, win or lose. It's all you can ask for. I also got to bring it up when we got to do it. We got to shout out Sarah Fuller for becoming the first woman ever to play in a Power 5 game. She does that kickoff for Vanderbilt. I mean, obviously, it's a great moment. Unfortunately, the Missouri defense was very stingy on Saturday, and Missouri's a team that's starting to look pretty good, actually. They do look like they're getting a lot better than they were at the beginning of the season. They also had some COVID issues that they were battling. And, I mean, they shut them down, didn't allow her to ever get into field goal range, but really a good showing from the Tigers. But obviously, congratulations to Sarah Fuller on making history.
Yeah, it was fun. She did one kickoff. I was hoping they get in field goal range. They seemed to drove one time, but then they got called back either by like a sack or a penalty, so that knocked her out of field goal range. It would have been interesting. I would have loved to have seen a female kicker kick an extra point or a field goal. Hopefully we'll get it this week, but I doubt it because Vanderbilt's playing Georgia, and Georgia's defense is just stingy as Missouri's. So we'll see.
We will have to see. I mean, you never know. Maybe one big play happens. Vanderbilt did just fire their coach, so he gives us this great moment that has a head coach, Derek Mason does in his last game, and then he gets fired.
Yeah, I'm ready for the movie in 10 years on Disney Plus because Disney's going to make a movie out of this in maybe 10 to 15 years.
I don't think you'll have to wait that long, my man. It's going to be happening. It might be out next week on Disney Plus. They might be that quick on it.
There's going to be a documentary series on it. Something, The Athletic or maybe YouTube.
It'll be a 30 for 30.
What if I told you this one? I am a little bit like I don't know what the word is, but it's just like I guess it's just with her being named co special teams player of the week, like that really it's like no offense, but it's like really like that yeah, she kicked off once, like that was great, but it's just like to be named co special teams player of the week.
I gotta agree with you there. I gotta be honest. I mean, I know how our league. I mean, I work in for CSU Pueblo, which is a team in the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, and that's done by SID vote. Like all of our Player of the Week things are done by Sports Information Director vote. So, like, obviously, I get that might be the case in the SEC. I don't know who does the voting, but again, I mean, I wouldn't personally have voted for her. I think that obviously it's a great story, but she did kick off just one time. And it's not her fault because the Vanderbilt offense could never get her in range for a field goal. But again, it was one kickoff versus someone else who might have had a big play on special teams or a block punt. I didn't see what the other person did, but even someone who made like 4 field goals or something would be up there more for me than, I guess, someone who just kicked off the one time. Once again,
Right.
a monumental step forward for us as a society, but I don't think that she should get the Coast Special Teams Player of the Week award for it.
Absolutely. It was just really like, really? I guess we're gonna keep this going. That's what it just felt like. Again, no offense to her. Like what she did was really groundbreaking, but it was just like maybe if she kicked a field goal and then like an extra point, it probably would have been. It probably been more deserving than for the award.
Right, absolutely. And I mean, it's not like she didn't get any coverage or any recognition from it. It was still something where obviously ESPN interviewed her afterwards. It was made a big deal of. It didn't need this extra little thing that felt like a participation trophy on top of it. When it, like I said, if we really are going towards equality, equality would not be giving someone a special teams player of the week award for kicking off. It would be like if Kendall Hinton gets named offensive player of the week in the NFL this week just because he played quarterback on 15 hours notice.
You nailed it right on the head right there. That is a perfect equivalent to this situation. I do want to give a shout out though to the University of Colorado. I read on Twitter that bowl eligible checks, so I'm not sure. Maybe they are bowl eligible given the circumstances with with COVID and the scheduling this year. So I hope they make it to these bowls. You ready for these lists of these 2020 bowls that I kind of made up?
I love it. I can't wait.
All right, here we go. The first bowl, the Purell sanitized bowl.
Nice.
Very sanitized. Yeah, quarterback has to sanitize his hands before every snap or after every catch and after every block. So it's going to be a lot of Purell in that game. The COVIDessentials.com bowl. And folks, these are fake bowls. I just kind of made these up out of the blue on Saturday, so it just made me excited to show this off. The Grubhub Bowl. Yeah, this is actually one of my favorites. The Essential Employees Bowl, sponsored by the Grocery Workers of America.
Awesome. All proceeds from the bowl should go to the essential workers.
Yes, absolutely. And then I have this one, the ACLU Social Justice Bowl.
Nice.
Yeah, it's something different. I feel like that would have been. It feels like a perfect bowl game. It feels like a fake bowl game as well. And then I have hot dog on a stick social distancing bowl, and and their sticks are 6 feet, 6 feet. So they're social distancing as well. So. And yeah, I feel like hot dog on a stick is just perfect. You just have a pole and it works.
Absolutely. I love that one. That's a great list. Honestly, I love the hot dog on a stick bowl. I can't wait to see USC take on Wisconsin in that game. It's gonna be great. I know for me personally, you could have told me that the Grubhub Bowl was one of the bowl games last year, and I would have believed it.
Or have Missouri against Colorado in the COVIDessentials.com bowl.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see Georgia play Georgia play Marshall in the ACLU Social Justice Bowl.
Again, it's just funny bowl names just for 2020, and it's just a crazy year. And decided to make up some funny stuff.
I enjoyed it. I hope all our viewers did too. I thought it was a great list, man.
If you have any fake bowls, please put it on the comments below. We will read them next week, and we would love to hear from them.
Absolutely. Give us your favorite fake bowl titles. I mean, I can't wait to see what you all come up with. Feel free to tweet them at us too at SP Bushy on Twitter.
Right, and I gotta give my bonehead player of the week actually, and that goes for the Syracuse quarterback who they were driving for I believe the game time they were at like the 15, and he gets sacked, and they had to rush back. It was 4th down, and he decides the perfect play and that's a quarterback spike. So he spikes it on 4th down. There was no time left on the clock either way, so it was just a bonehead either way.
Honestly, I mean, I saw you tweet that out on Saturday. I think I was still watching the Mizzou Vandy game at that moment. That being said, I think that's unbeatable. A game-ending spike. That's unbeatable as a bonehead of the week. I'm giving mine to the NFL, as you could tell by my ranting. But nevertheless, that is a definite bonehead of the week to end the game, spiking the ball when you only have one play left. And it was 4th down.
Yeah, and I don't think Syracuse is going to make it to the Uber Eats delivery bowl. I don't think they're going to make it this year. I think that spike really cost their chances.
True. Very good point there. They still might be in the toilet bowl. We'll see.
Yes. Also, I got to give a shout out to Jordan Patterson. He's the Buffalo running back who's actually having a really underrated season in the MAC, and he's gaining up for lost time, folks. He had 36 carries for 409 yards and 8 touchdowns. He becomes the 3rd player in NCAA history to rush for 8 touchdowns in a game, and becomes the 3rd player to rush for 400 yards in a game. It was just an amazing accomplishment, and it just seemed like every time he carried the ball, there he goes, scoring a touchdown again. I actually watched this game most of the time. It was a fun game to watch. It just seemed like every time I needed something different, I would switch over to CBS Sports Network and was watching the Kent State Buffalo game.
I missed that one, but that is a hell of an accomplishment. Congratulations to Jordan Patterson. And who knows, he might be the next Derrick Henry, and maybe we're talking about him on Sundays.
We could. He is a special player, and I don't know if it was Kent State's defense that can tackle, or it was just Jared Patterson just running over people.
And, I mean, we talked about the NFL a lot. I mean, obviously a rough week for them, but it was still another great week in college football. You have the Sarah Fuller storyline. You have a lot of good games once again. And, I mean, there's just a lot of good things going on Saturday, so definitely a lot worth watching.
The Friday slate of NCAA games was a lot better than the Thanksgiving games, and that I would include the Pittsburgh-Baltimore game on that end.
Whenever it gets played.
Whenever it gets played, yes. Because you started out with Texas, Iowa State, a great game as well, and then we have Notre Dame, North Carolina. That was a fun game. And then we had the nightcap with the Pac-12 with Oregon State upsetting Oregon, winning on essentially maybe the last play of the game. It was overall a wonderful Friday, day after Thanksgiving.
Honestly, it was better than anything the NFL came up with all week. I loved all 3 of those games. That Oregon State-Oregon game was a fabulous game to watch. Like you said, great comeback there by the Beavers, actually, to pull that one off in Civil War. I mean, it was a fun week in college football. And like I said, I'll take my Saturdays, college football Saturdays and Fridays in this case, all day over NFL right now with what we're getting.
Absolutely, that could change. That could change next week.
It could, like I said. Who knows? Your Grubhub Bowl might get played before this Ravens Steelers game. So
we will see. I'm really kind of curious. How's this going to play out for the rest of the season?
Absolutely. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see more college football Saturdays. So bring it on.
Bring it on, and we're gonna get more games, including over Christmas time with Pac-12 and Big Ten trying to finish up the season. So I'm really excited. We're gonna have actual meaningful college football games in at Christmas time.
That's exciting. I mean, obviously, I don't watch all these meaningless bowl games because they are meaningless. So I haven't watched the Bell Helicopters Bowl in years. So I'm very excited to see what happens in some of these meaningful games in December.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm ready. I'm ready. Just give me more football. I want more football.